Welcome in, Sideline Sports Show. Glad to have you with us on this lovely Thursday night. Tim, it is so good to be back. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm good, Ben. And again, a very, very interesting time off for you. We've
Yeah,
had to take some time off because my man over here, my co-host, my dear friend Benjamin London, he is now a dad.
I
Everyone, just
know.
in case
And look,
people
here's the
are
thing,
wondering.
Tim. If you don't mind, I would love to bring in a special guest on the show for the very first time. Is that
Okay,
okay? Okay,
absolutely.
come here. Our 7 pounds, 8 ounce
Aw.
friend over here, Baylor Kate has now officially joined the show. She probably needs a diaper change more than anything, but she is alive. She is well, and it has been awesome so far. So now she gets to open her
Man.
eyes a little bit. So
Mhm.
there we go.
Hey,
There
Baylor.
we
Hey,
go. There's Tim
man.
and the rest of the Sideline Sports Show family. We're very grateful for the time off that we had, and but it's been awesome. So it's been an incredible experience. So thankful for a lot of people like this sending me messages left and right. Um, Especially just being a dad is a whole new world, like for just
I can
life in
imagine,
general. So very
man.
grateful for everybody else. But as you can tell, different location now. I did start a new job in that whole entire process too. So that's been a whirlwind, and it's been an adventure over the past month and almost a half now. So it's been a crazy couple months, but it's glad to be back to almost normal. I don't think it will ever be normal again having a child, but you're almost back to it somewhat, somehow, some way.
Yeah,
So
some
just
sort of
glad to be
a
back.
routine, right?
Yeah,
Just
some
some
sort of
sort.
routine where I can feel normal a half of the time that I'm awake and alive. So that's what we're really aiming for. But Tim, thank you for holding down the fort and keep just being like, oh, I understand we're not doing the show this week. So thank you for that. So let's
Yeah,
go ahead.
absolutely.
Let's dive in. World Cup action. There was a lot that just ended. And
Yeah.
Germany is officially out. They are done. They cut
Second
them, and
straight World Cup.
uh,
Second
they're
straight.
gone. So that's shocking though, because like when we were growing up, Germany was like that really good team. I think they even won a World Cup,
Yeah,
like
2014. Yeah.
yeah, 2014, yeah, when we were growing up, and like they were this powerhouse, and everybody like knew Germany is going to be that team coming into the World Cup, and they're just going to dominate, and immediately gets cut out again for the second year in a row. And then a team that is a surprise, like Japan, has made it in after their win today over Spain. So that's a huge win as well.
Yeah.
So
And if
congrats
you'd
to
have
them.
told me in a group with Spain and Germany that Japan would win the group,
Yeah.
I'd have told you were nuts. I'd have told you you're crazy. But
Hey,
man,
Germany's in that group
Japan
too.
looks really good. Yeah, right. I mean, sheesh. I mean, Spain, especially getting off to that hot start against Costa Rica, putting up 7 goals on them as well, which that ultimately ended up being the tiebreaker. I mean, Spain and Germany both had 4 points, but the problem was because of that 7-0 drubbing of Costa Rica, Spain finished with a +6 goal differential, Germany +1. So that ultimately pushed Spain through and into the knockout stage in the round of 16. So, I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on. As you can tell, I got my United States shirt on, my
Yeah.
Patriot flag. Their game against Iran, oh, excuse me, Iran, or they'll get mad at you for
Yeah,
saying
yeah.
Iran.
No, watch
Sorry.
out, Tim.
Yeah, right.
We're
But
not going to post the flag. We're not going to post the flag. We don't want to
no,
get in
no,
any controversy here.
no. We're not doing anything of that sort. But overall, I mean, just so much drama going at the World Cup. I mean, obviously, we just talked about the U.S. They finished second in their group to take on the Netherlands, who won Group A as they easily defeated Qatar, putting them about a point ahead of Senegal in that group. So it's going to be interesting. Netherlands ranked, I believe, top 10 in the world, seventh or eighth in the world as well. So they're very, very good squad. I think most people would tell you that as well. So it's going to be a tough game for the United States of America on Saturday morning, but I think they have the chance. I mean, they play some of the best defense that I've seen from anybody, just about anybody in this tournament, only giving up the 1 goal, and that was a Gareth Bale penalty kick. Matt Turner's done an absolute fantastic job. Tyler Adams, I mean, he's been all over the field
Yeah.
in all 3 games. I mean, he's the captain of that team. He shows that this team, I mean, they defend like any other. I mean, that game against England, who's number 5 in the world, a very talented, if not one of the the most talented teams that an English side has seen. The United States honestly should have won that game. They created more chances. They outshot them. And it's just overall that they played a really good game against England, getting the draw there, so that they can show that they can compete with anybody in the world. Now, the big question is the health of Christian Pulisic. That dude, I mean, I saw someone put it on Twitter, and it makes – I was like, that is great, fantastic. Someone said he may no longer be a father like you just became, Ben, but he's definitely going to be a father because on the goal that he scored against Iran – yeah, he definitely took one right in the kiddos area. But thankfully, hey, he got a goal, and that was the goal the U.S. needed to push him through to the next round. So,
right.
They diagnosed it as a pelvic contusion. So, let's just say he got kicked in the man area. Yeah. He got knee. Excuse me, got knee in the groin area. So hopefully he's fine. I don't know how healthy he's going to be and how serious the injury is. Every guy knows what it's like to be kicked or kneed in that area. It is not fun, but hopefully he'll have enough time to get his time back for their game against the Netherlands on Saturday.
Absolutely. And let me tell you, I will say this. Their defense has been phenomenal. Like, it really has. I grew up playing soccer. Like, I can tell when there's a good defense and when there's a defense that's really struggling in that back half. And I think that was a good thing that I realized was looking at this U.S. defense. I think it's probably been one of the best defenses that the U.S. has had in a very, very long time. I think the thing that is missing is the striker position, because here's the thing. Christian Pulisic, like, he can score, he can cross. That's why they have him over there on that left side. But the problem is you can't move him to the striker position if you need somebody who can cross from that left side, and that's what he does very well. And so that's the problem with the U.S. right now. They don't really have a main striker that can go and push the ball forward when they need to, finish at when they need them to. And I think that's going to be a big concern when they play the Netherlands tomorrow. On Saturday, is saying, hey, is there a guy that can step up and truly become that striker to lead this team to a potential World Cup? And honestly, I don't know if I can say yes. And I think that's probably one of the things I'm struggling with is them beating the Netherlands. I think they can hold the Netherlands. We've seen them hold England already. It's, can they hold bigger teams as they advance on? If they advance on, can they hold them to at least a draw and then take it to PKs? That's going to be the problem with the United States until they find a striker. And until they do, it's going to be a problem the rest of the way out.
Absolutely. Completely agree with you. Look, I think Jeff Sargent is a good CONCACAF striker. I don't think he's the guy for you on the world stage. I don't think he's a guy that can get it done on the World Cup. And to your point, you're right. U.S., while they've only allowed the one PK goal against Wales and shut everybody else out, they've only scored two themselves. So one from Timothy Weah, and then, of course, Pulisic in the Group B finale against Iran. So that's definitely going to be interesting as they move on. Who's going to be that goal scorer? Who's going to get the goals? Like, are you just going to kind of hope to play defense for 120 minutes and hope to take it to PKs and then rely on Matt Turner?
But that's the problem. You can't do that. Like, there's no way. Like, because when you play a team that's as hot as Japan and their offense is just clicking right now, you don't want to rely on just your defense for a whole 120 minutes. It just does not happen that way. Like, there's not a single team that's walked into this World Cup and said, we're going to rely on our defense. Like, this is not like college football or any other sport where you can just rely on one certain aspect of your team. No, this is a whole aspect that has to come in to fruition, and it's got to come into fruition quickly. Because like you mentioned, like, Sargent, Tim Weah, maybe Aronson, they're great CONCACAF strikers. I mean, fantastic CONCACAF strikers. But World Cup, they're struggling, and that's where you got to find somebody, maybe make a change. See if you can get somebody out on that left side and put Christian up top. You got to make those changes to where it helps get your team further along in this tournament. And right now, I just don't see that from the striker position. And I think that's the big question mark going into the Netherlands on Saturday.
And this is a thing where I think Greg Burkhalter, I'll give him his praise for his first half strategy against Iran. They went full attack. Even when they got the goal in the 38th minute, I believe it was, they still were on attack for a little while. But then they came out in the second half, and it was just like, they backed up in their own end and let Iran dictate the flow of the game. It's like, look, I understand you was trying to get that second goal, and they almost had it that close. Like literally, I think that Timothy Weah was like a fraction offside, and even some people were still saying that's not offside. But neither here nor there, they didn't get a second goal. But they just kind of sat back and just let Iran bring it to them. And again, we talked about defending for 120 minutes. They were gassed after defending Iran for 90. Yeah. Can you imagine another 30 minutes on top of that?
Exactly.
I don't know. I just, for me,
and they use all their subs too.
Yeah, they used all 5. Yeah, and which another thing you're going to have to use. For me, it's someone like Brennan Aronson could make a difference in this one. I love the kid. I think he plays great. He's such a good presser of the ball. Plays for a club that I my beloved Leeds United, and I get a firsthand view of him. This kid loves to press. I know he plays the same position as Christian Pulisic, but I'm telling you, in a game in which maybe not start him, maybe you don't have to start him, but a guy that you can bring on, especially if you're tied late in the contest, say if you're tied maybe around the 65th, 70th minute, bring him on with Pulisic. And that way you can kind of pressure the Netherlands and take it to them. I love it when these two guys are on the field at the exact same time. Yeah, I think you can definitely create some pressure. You can have Pulisic leading on the left wing can apply pressure. Aronson, he'll be able to apply pressure. He'll be able to get in there. He's really good with the ball. He's really good with the ball. So I think there's things that you could do. And again, Burkhalter, I'm worried about him. That's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about the manager. I just don't like his philosophy sometimes. And, of course, I don't know how healthy he is, but Gio Reyna hasn't really been playing as much. There's a lot of controversy going on with that. Reyna's and Burkhalter's relationship. Some say it's good, some say it's not, but who knows?
Who knows?
So that's another player that U.S. could really use right now. But again, we don't know how healthy he is either, dealing with an injury. So I don't just the way his style is, man. I'm not impressed with it. I'm just like, you can't be super defensive against these teams and expect to go far in the World Cup. You can't. And look, I will give him credit. He had a good strategy in the first half against Iran. Second half, that went all out the window, and he just allowed Iran to dictate them, and they almost gave up a late goal. There were multiple chances for Iran to put one in the net. So again, that defense was just so gassed, and that they didn't even play extra time. They played about 100 minutes, I guess, if you count stoppage time. But overall, man, I am a little worried about this team, especially if we go ultra defensive against the Netherlands, which at some point, I understand that you're going to have to do at some point, especially if you have a lead late in the game. But overall, I want to be able to take it to them. And Burkhalter just doesn't seem to really want to do that. That's just not his style. And it's like, if you want to advance in these tournaments, I think that's something you're going to have to do. So it'd be interesting to see how that plays out on Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. And that will be a huge key matchup for the U.S. and see how they can make it to the potential World Cup. Who knows? It's going to be a little bit of a long shot, but they got a decent shot to at least win on Saturday for sure.
Now, did you see the craziness that was happening in Group C with Mexico as well the other day?
Yes, I did.
Yesterday? That was crazy. For a moment there, until Saudi Arabia got a goal in the 90th minute, they were tied on everything, and they being Mexico and Poland. With the way things were going, Argentina was up 2-0, Mexico was up 2-0. If things had finished that way, it would have been Poland and Mexico at 4 points, 2 goals scored, 2 goals allowed, both of them. Exact same goal differential, same exact tiebreakers against common opponents as well. Every bit of tiebreaker was exactly the same. They were equal on every single tiebreaker. And did you hear what the tiebreaker would have been had it not been for that Saudi Arabia goal?
No.
It would have been yellow cards. Poland would have advanced because of fewer yellow cards. I was like, can you imagine Mexico not advancing to the round of 16 because of that they had more yellow cards than Poland did?
That would have been crazy.
That was
but
something.
even what
it
shocked
ended
me,
up not working out that way.
Even what shocked me is as soon as that whistle blew in the Mexico game, they already had fired their head coach.
Tata.
And I respect Tata because he was at Atlanta United before he went over to Mexico. So I respect him. He won the MLS Cup with Atlanta United.
He did.
But I was just like, man, literally as soon as he walked off the field, he was like, and he said in the post game, he was like, as soon as that whistle blew, my contract was over. Like it was, and they were like, hey, we're not going to renew it. Like as soon as he's walking off the field, I'm like, man, like that has to be gut wrenching. You're walking off the field and supporting your country and you get fired as soon as the whistle blows. And so I mean,
well, it's the first time Mexico had failed to advance out of the group stage in
yeah,
40-some years. So
yeah,
I think that was definitely the ultimate reason why
that had to
they
have been,
came to him,
yeah, that
just
was definitely
because,
part of
yeah.
it. So,
So,
but yeah, World Cup, it's been phenomenal so far. I mean, from what I've watched, I haven't got to watch much, but I've been able to watch a good amount to just be able to tell you. It's been really interesting, really exciting. The political side of it is a whole different story that we're not even going to
and
touch into because that's just that's a whole nother ball game. So we're not even
that
going to
doesn't make
worry
it
about that.
fun. And we want to
Yeah,
deal with fun.
yeah, and it's taking, and that's what we've always said. We don't want to get politics involved in sports because that just takes away the joy that people have to get away from politics because it's a avenue out. And so now with people bringing it
Mhm.
in, I know some things have to be brought up, but I think everything's being brought up now. So, but we're not even going to touch it. So, anyways, college basketball, Tim. I don't know if you saw this the other night, but Davidson and Charlotte got to play in overtime, and I don't know if you even saw the ending of that one, but that was
I did not.
insane, absolutely insane. Charlotte goes to the free throw line. They miss it with about 10 seconds left. I mean, they're scrambling for the whole 10 seconds. A Charlotte player picks it up from the 3-point line to nail it for the game winner, and he hits it with like .3 as it comes out of his hand, and they win it for Charlotte to upset Davidson at Davidson. So huge win for Charlotte the other night. And even bigger news, Furman is on a roll right now. They are on a roll, and it's
Five and
we
two.
we've talked about them last year, and they beat and upset South Carolina. Yes, the South Carolina that beat Clemson this past weekend in football. We'll get to that in a little bit.
You had
You
to
can
throw
tell
that
that.
one in there, huh?
We'll throw that. We'll talk about that more. But Furman hoops looking pretty good, Tim. So far, so well.
Yeah, 5-2. There are only 2 losses coming in the Charleston Classic in the first 2 games against the Penn State team. That's really, really good. They so much improved. Definitely going to be in the top half of the middle of the Big Ten this season. Could definitely be a NCAA tournament team at the end. Clemson just played them and had to beat them in double overtime. So it was a really good game, but
Yeah.
overall, Furman, the loss to Old Dominion's not great. But at least that loss gave him a chance to absolutely pound South Carolina into oblivion. Of course, G.G. Jackson. I mean, he's been playing really good. He's been playing like the 5-star he is. But man, South Carolina overall, they went 0-3 in Charleston and finished last in that tournament, getting blown up by 32, I believe it was, to Colorado State, losing by 9 to Davidson, and then losing to your in-state rival. Well, I wouldn't say rival, but your in-state opponent that you're like, oh, we lost to maybe Clemson or something. No. You lost to Furman, which,
Yeah.
most years, and right now, though, Furman's been on a roll as well. They just beat Appalachian State, had a big lead in that one. App State came back and I think had a 4-point lead at one point, but Furman was able to close the game on a 11-4 run and was able to put App State away by 4. And again, the App State team that's very, very good major team that's a tournament team 2 years ago. So again, Furman's on a roll. They beat South Carolina. They're going to have a chance later in the month. Now we turn the calendar over to December. They go on the road to NC State, a team that played very well with Kansas down there in Atlanta. So you're going to have to go to Raleigh and play them. So get a good test of just how good the Furman Paladins really are. And before that, they've got a couple tests as well. I know they got Winthrop coming to town. I wouldn't say Holy Cross coming to town,
Holy
but
Cross.
coming to town. But yeah, that's a very good mid-major team as well. They're 6-1 right now. Not really a tough schedule, but overall, again, it's going to be tough for I'll say Furman Paladins will definitely be a team. If they can get past Sanford, because I think Chattanooga, they lost Malachi Smith, so they lost a couple other players as well. They did get Jake Stevens, who's a very talented player from VMI, on their team. So Chattanooga, someone that could be a tough opponent, someone maybe in the semifinals of the SoCon tournament. But Sanford with Quez Glover, they almost beat DePaul the other night in overtime, lost 103-98. But that other than that, man, Furman really and truly is definitely going to be the class of the SoCon this year, led by fifth-year seniors Mike Bothwell and Jalen Slauson. So those guys are really, really talented. And honestly, they could beat anybody. They really, really can, especially if they have a good shooting night. Because the thing with Bob Ritchie, head coach of Furman, these guys love to shoot the 3. And if they are on that night, man, oh, man, you better look out. And you're be in for a dogfight, or if you're not careful, you might get blown out of the gym.
And then last but not least, game of the year the other night in quadruple overtime. Yes, quadruple overtime.
Yep.
And this is not a college football bowl game score. No, this is actual basketball. UNC loses in the tournament game to Alabama, 104 to 101. If not, I think that's correct off the top of my mind. And I'm telling you, that had to have been the game of the century. Like, it was phenomenal. It literally just went back and forth. I mean, punch after punch after punch, and no one would go down until the final whistle of this one in quadruple overtime as Alabama gets the big win over UNC. And here's the thing. I mean, honestly, people thought Alabama would be another good team coming into this year, but when you upset the number one team in college basketball, Tim, there's a little bit more talks about Alabama maybe moving on up a little bit in the polls.
Yeah, absolutely. And I could see that happening, but North Carolina is definitely not the number one team. Let's go ahead and put that out there. I think they just had their third loss the other night. They lost to Indiana yesterday, actually, by double figures, ACC. 12 points. So they're 5-3 this year. They've had their struggles. They only beat Gardner-Webb by 6. They were down to Charleston. They gave up like 50-something points to Charleston in the first half. They were down by 7 at the halftime break there before they eventually took control of that one. I think a lot of people kind of took what North Carolina did in the tournament last year. People forget, I believe they were a 9 seed. They were 8 or 9. I can't remember which one, but then they just went on an absolute run and just tore through everybody in NCAA tournament, including they killed the dream for Cinderella St. Peter's as well in the Elite Eight. So they went on a tear last year. They got Armando Bacot back. So I think people just kind of assumed that they were going to be really good, kind of feed off the energy, people not realizing, hey, the landscape for teams changes every single year. I mean, you want to look at St. Peter's right now. I mean, that team is definitely not the same. I mean, Doug, he's not there anymore. Their head coach isn't there anymore. I mean, no, the landscape for college basketball changes. You can ride momentum, but that's not always meaning, hey, this team's going to be number one in the country without a doubt with everybody returning. Not necessarily, just because of all the people that either transferring or coming into college basketball. Landscapes change, and they change pretty quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a big thing that I think any sport is about to change. And you've seen it in college football as well. The transfer portal has helped and hurt some teams. And so obviously for opponents playing North Carolina, it looks like it's helping them beat the defending national champs. So, Tim, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a break. When we come back on the other side, we're going to be talking about the college football expansion and how Tim's team could still get in if the college expansion started this year. But we're going to talk about that on the other side, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back in, Sideline Sports Show. Glad to have you with us. And this episode is brought to you by our great friends at Section 103. Make sure to go check them out, section103.com, for all your holiday shopping for your favorite Georgia Tech fan, a.k.a. me. And you can purchase anything on your first order using 10% off code Sideline at checkout. So make sure to go check them out, section103.com. And let me tell you, they have a new Brent Key hoodie in. I don't know if you realize, but Brent Key is the new head coach now at Georgia Tech. Thank Jesus, hallelujah. It was not Willie Fritz. But I will say this. They have the most comfortable hoodie in the world. So
I'm just saying real quick here. Section 103, if you guys do not print a hoodie that says the key to success, what are you doing? I mean, come on.
Yeah. Okay. Look, you're giving them ideas, Tim. You're giving them ideas. Look at that.
Absolutely.
Look,
I did it for free for now.
Yeah. We did it. Copyright. Go ahead and copyright it, Tim. Go ahead and purchase your copyright terms. So, all right. But section103.com. Go check them out.
I'll hit my.
All right. Let's talk about the college football expansion before we get into picks of the week. And talk about our conference picks of the week, because conference championships are coming up. Let's go ahead and talk about this college football playoff expansion. As of yesterday, the Rose Bowl and all of college football playoff have announced that they will expand to not only 8 teams, they will expand to 12 teams. So that means the first 4 will get the bye in the first round while the other 8 teams battle it out for that next position to go into the semifinals. So, Tim, let's talk about that. Obviously, if it started this year, your Clemson Tigers, even though they lost to South Carolina, will still get in, regardless of their loss to South Carolina and their loss to Notre Dame early on in the year. Tell us, what are your thoughts initially on the 12-team playoff expansion?
I think this is overall a W for college football. And I'm not just saying that people are like, oh, Clemson would get in. Look, I don't care if the Clemson was the number 1 overall team. I think this is a great thing. And you're still rewarding the top 4 teams. You get a bye, and then you get to play into the quarterfinals when there's 8 teams. I think more games that actually mean something are very beneficial to college football. And it just adds to it. And it's like, oh, people are talking about, oh, this would be great discussion. It's perfect with 4 teams. I'm like, no. It's perfect for media pundits who love to discuss and get ratings. That's what it's perfect for. It's definitely, you need more teams, especially a year like this year. More times than not, people say, oh, this year is really the exception. Well, that's the case. Years like this where it's so wide open. Georgia, while they're really, really good, they're not as good offensively. They're definitely someone that anybody in the country, especially in the top half, could beat on any given day, but they could also get obliterated by any given day as well. So there's so much wide open. There's so much parity this year in college football. A 12-team playoff, in my opinion, would be a lot of fun. And plus, I don't know how they're going to adjust the bowl systems. I don't know if it's going to be home games in the first round for the higher seed. I don't know if it's going to be given the bowl games, which I think would happen, which would be, in my opinion, a shame. I hope it goes to the higher seed team, which would be awesome. Can you imagine, Ben, an 8-9 matchup? We'll just throw out there Clemson versus Oregon. Oregon comes all the way across the country to Death Valley, and Clemson plays in a home game in which the winner gets to face Georgia in the bowl game the next week. I think that something right there is a lot of fun. A lot of something. Yeah. It's something for people to talk about. It's something that we just get to enjoy around this time of the year. And I think it's great for college football. It leads to more discussion, leads to more games, which ultimately I think you're also going to have to kind of adjust the schedule as well. Games in which, whether you're playing an FCS opponent or games in which you're going up against a team from the FBS, but they're non-Power 5, like Clemson this year played Louisiana Tech, those games might have to disappear. I don't think that would be too much of a thing for some of these teams, but overall, I think it's a good thing for college football. I think it'd be more fun. I think it'd create more drama as well. Kind of create that, how we have March Madness, could create a little December Madness as well.
Yeah. And here's my thing about overall of it. First off, I'm very glad that the college football playoff is expanding. I'm not saying that. I am saying this. I will guarantee in about 5 years, people will be like, oh, we need to expand it, or we need to make it go to 8. The first team doesn't need to have a bye. And we'll hear all that crap. I know it will come because it's just the nature and the culture that we are in right now, where we want it now. That's just the way it is. And so I think for a lot of these fans that are getting to see their team now in the college football playoff, it'll be really good for revenue for their school if they get to host that home event. Because let's be realistic, you're not going to enter a college football playoff and not pack a home stadium out. You're just not going to. That's not possible. You're going to pack that stadium out as much as possible. I will say this, though. I think then people will say, hey, if it is a home game, it's an advantage to the higher seed and all this stuff and wham. There's going to be
that's what it should be.
There's going to be somehow, some way, people are still going to complain that the college football playoff is messed up and you need to fix it and all this stuff. It's going to happen. That's what I'm just trying to tell people now. Mm-hmm. I'm glad it's expanding. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that I don't want it to expand. I am saying that just be careful, because now you're saying, oh, we're going to solve all these problems. And then guess what? You're going to run into more, because that's just the way our society is now. Something is always wrong with no matter what decision you make. And that's what it's going to ultimately come down to. But I will say it does give these shots for people like, Tennessee, who are, had a quarterback injury. Let's just say Tennessee, Hendon Hooker tore his ACL in the beginning of the season, or in spring training or whatever, and is able to come back for the final couple of games, and Tennessee was able to ride it out and only get 2 losses. That gives them now a hope to at least go and advance a little bit further and still be kind of a Cinderella story kind of team. So I think it is good for people like that. Like, for instance, this year, Tulane. I think that would be really good publicity for them, saying, hey, I made it into the college football playoff. And, that gives them a good shot to do that. Now, I will say this, Tim. Do you think that the committee will say, hey, the Power 5 conferences, if you win that title game, you're automatically guaranteed a seed, yes or no?
Yes, I do like it. I do want that. I think that'd be a good idea. Now, maybe a team where occasionally, because I think we had a couple years ago in that Coastal Division in the ACC, a team that was 7-5 made it to the ACC title game. Now, look, that would not be good for college football. I'm just telling you, it would not be good for college football. But that is the classic case of an exception, not the rule, right? That doesn't happen very often. I think getting an automatic bid into it from winning your conference. Now we're talking like Power 5, correct?
Yeah, Power 5. Power 5 conferences. Like, I'm not saying like the MAC should get a bid into the college football playoff. I am saying though, like the Power 5 conferences, SEC, ACC, you get the point.
Yeah, I definitely think the highest ranked now in Power 5 team should also get a seat at the table as well. Okay. I definitely think they're going to do that as well. I think in their new format, I think that's going to be the case. Which another W for this 12-team format. And just overall, man, I think this is exciting that again you're going to add more and more games. Right now, you just have 3 games in the playoff. You're going to have four, and then you have the 2 and 1. So I mean, you're adding 8 games to this, and I think that's going to be great. I think that's going to be something. Again, anytime you can put more games to it, I know it's going to be more taxing, but guess what? It's going to mean less opt-outs from players because last year Kenny Pickett opt out of the ball game as well, and then the big time ball game between Pitt and Michigan State turned out to be a clunker because no one really cared because the 2 main players because the running back for Michigan State, he's with the
Kenneth Walker.
He opted out, and then the quarterback for Pitt,
Kenny Pickett,
he opted out as well. So it was just like, well, the 2 best players in this game are playing. Why am I watching this game? There's no reason. That's not going to happen as much in the more meaningful matchups, and I think this is going to be great for college football.
Yeah, and here's my next question, Tim. Do you think, how do they seed these conference champions? Or is it like, because let's say there is a 7-5, Coastal team that wins out of the ACC. They upset Clemson. Where do you seed them? Do you seed them as one of the top? Is it based off conference? Like you say, hey, like this is one of the tougher conferences. Do you put them at 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 and let them have a bye? Or do you have to place them kind of at like the 12 or the 8 or 12 through 10 kind of spot?
See, I think they already kind of have a rule in place like that. Like, I think it's going to be the top 4 conference champions get a bye. That would be the top 4 seeds. And then that way, that team, say North Carolina or Pitt, whoever it was at the ACC Coastal, finishes 7-5, then upsets Clemson. They can still seed them wherever they want to. They can put them at 12 for crying out loud. I mean, they can put them there, and then that's how they do it. Then at that point, you put Clemson at one of the 5 through 11 spots. So, and I think they probably put them in like probably 5 or 6 range. Say a Clemson team that's 12-1 at that point, the only lost to the ACC title game. You probably put them like a 6, maybe a 5 type deal. I think the way that they handle that, I mean, again, they don't have to put every single Power 5 champion at a bye in the top 4 spots because there are 5 there are 5 Power 5 conferences. So the one, say one gets through the cracks and wins and goes on a Cinderella run, they don't have to put them in the top 4 spot. So I like that flexibility, and I think that it'll kind of work itself out there.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see when 2024 rolls around. It will be this year and next year are the final ones of a 14 playoff, and then it will enter after that. So, Tim,
I was just going to say, I'm just hoping the new NCAA football game that comes out in a couple years is adjusted. Whenever it does come out, are they adjusted? Are they going to be still doing the 14 playoff in that video game, or are they going to put it to the 12? Well,
who knows? All right, Tim, let's go ahead. Well, I will say this before we get to picks of the week. Home playoff games in Athens, Clemson, and Columbia would be very lit up. I would agree with that. No doubt in my mind. I think that would be really fun to see. I really do.
It was still going to be a couple years before Columbia. I'm just going to let you know.
Ooh, he's a little salty. All right, here we go.
It may even be a few years for Georgia as well, because they're always going to be in the top 4. Sheesh.
Who knows? Picks presented by our great friends in Section 103. We're very glad to have them as for our picks of the week. We're going to actually go through some games that Tim, I didn't even think about picking, but we're going to go through them. All right.
Oh, boy.
It all starts. Conference championships games start this weekend. It starts tomorrow night, and it starts at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, Tim, on ESPN Plus as Akron takes on Buffalo. Who you got? I can't believe that. Look, this is actually not a championship game. This is just a normal game. Akron 2-9, Buffalo 5-6. Tim, who you got in that one?
Sorry,
He's like, hold on, I have to think.
No, I had to cough for a second. I had to hit the mute button. Now, honestly, I'll go Akron just because I have no idea.
Buffalo's an 11-point favorite. I'm going to take Buffalo.
I'll go Akron just because of it. Just see, hey, I pull it off an upset. Even though
you know what? I'm actually going to take Buffalo for a different reason. Because in VeggieTales, my life was always told everybody's got a water buffalo. Yours is fast, but mine is slow. So I'm going to take Buffalo.
We're busting out VeggieTales here. What in the world?
Hey, you do what you can. You do what you can.
Hey, C-Dog points out and make a good point. They are first in the alphabet, or alphabetically in the city-wise in America. They're going to be first in our hearts on Friday. I almost said Saturday.
Yeah. Who knows? All right, now we get
1 o'clock games on Friday.
No one is.
So then we're talking about alphabet and we're talking about VeggieTales in our picks. What is happening?
We're going back to childhood days. Days. That's what we're doing. We're going back and learning the ABCs and VeggieTales. All right. Conference USA Championship kicks off 7:30 tomorrow night on CBS Sports Network. North Texas and UTSA, Tim. Give me UTSA. They were a really good team last year, continuing a fantastic season this year, 10-2 on the year. I expect them to win big. Give me UTSA over North Texas.
I'm going to have to go agree with you on that one. UTSA has been really good. Now, this is the second straight year they've been really good as well. 10-2, North Texas, 7-5. America is going 97% UTSA. I tend to agree with them. Give me the Roadrunners.
Okay. I'm sorry I disappointed some people. Some people still don't have a water buffalo. I apologize.
You're not alone.
Yeah, you're not alone. All right. Tomorrow night, the lone other game tomorrow night is on Fox. It is the Pac-12 championship. Utah takes on USC in that one. Is this a potential upset, Tim, or do you got USC winning this one?
I mean, Utah did win back when they played earlier in the season, 43-42. Utah went for 2. And I called that upset pick. I was like, I think Utah was going to win at home. They did. And now this is USC. Hey, you guys win, you're in the playoff. Caleb Williams, this is a revenge game for him. Everything about the new coach, Lincoln Riley, moving to out west to California, to Los Angeles, can he bring back USC? He's one game away from doing just that, getting them back into the playoffs. It's a revenge game, and I ultimately think he will. I said Utah was going to win. They did. This one, I'm tending to lean USC. I think that they feel that the pressure is not going to bother them too much. I think they atoned for some of the mistakes, and they really didn't have a ton of mistakes, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Offense, they moved the ball great, but the problem was so did Utah, and Utah ended up putting up that 2-point conversion late in the game and ultimately pulling off the upset. I don't think that will happen this time, and I think USC atones for it. So I got USC winning 38-28.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Trojans as well, and I'll say this. Look, it's like you mentioned. I think we both actually picked Utah to win in that first game, in that first showdown. But I don't know. Here's a good point. This is a really good point. Utah did beat Oregon twice last year. They beat them in the regular season. And you're saying the difference is Caleb Williams, right?
Well, that, and the fact of the matter is Oregon was a completely different team, and it showed that Utah clearly had Oregon's number last year. That's not the case in this time. I think USC and Utah are fairly evenly matched as well, especially on the offensive side of the football. I think they'll both be able to score on each other. I just think ultimately, I think the defense for USC is going to shine a little bit too bright in this one for Utah. And I just think the difference between this year and last year, Utah clearly had Oregon's number. I don't feel that this year with Utah over USC.
I'll say this, and this is how I'm going to make my pick, Tim. There's a guy that blows up my phone every day, every single night, and he blows your phone up too. I know that for a fact. His name is Cody. Let me tell you, Cody is praying that USC loses this game. Even if TCU loses, I think TCU still gets in. But this is the game that Alabama has a chance to get into the college football playoff. Will they do it? No. USC gets into the playoff, leaves Alabama out. Give me USC. All right.
Let's hope so.
There you go. I hope so. I pray. Because if not, our phones will be even blown up more. All right. Saturday, it all begins at 12 o'clock. It is the Dr. Pepper Big 12 championship game. Kansas State with the potential to knock off the undefeated Horned Frogs. Tim, who do you got?
See, this one, man, this matchup to me is probably the most intriguing matchup, in my opinion. I think it's even more intriguing than UNC and Clemson. Overall, if you look at these teams' offense, they're very, very similar. Total yards, TCU averages 473 yards, Kansas State 421. Blake Martinez, who's been the starter for a lot, he's not going to get the start in this one. They say he is going to play, but he's going to be kind of more of a change of pace guy for me. And then for TCU, they have a knack of winning those close games. And again, also when they get behind, they don't panic. And that was the case last time when they played Kansas State. They got behind, but they were able to come back strong and were able to win by 10. So TCU, Max Duggan over, I believe that makes Duggan, over 3,000 yards on the year. I mean, 29 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. That is insane numbers as well. I mean, there are teams like on ACC side with Clemson would take those numbers any day of the week. You take those numbers and put it on Clemson, they're in the playoff with ease. But so just overall, and they've also got some rushing as well. They're very similar as well. The running stop. Kansas State loves to run the football, and they're very balanced as well. That's like they average 210 yards on the ground and 211 through the air. So they're just very balanced on offense as well. So I don't know. It should be interesting as well. Again, this is the most intriguing matchup that I have so far in the conference playoff. I don't know what laughing, but I see the comment now.
I'll get to that in a minute.
But let's take a little bit of my thunder wave. You know why? Because I think Kansas State will be too much for TCU, and I think Kansas State pulls it off, and I think they win in a classic on a walk-off field goal. 31-28. Kansas State wins. Kansas State, this is what it is. Every time I have picked Kansas State, whether they win or to lose, they always do the exact opposite. So
if you're picking them to win, they're going to lose.
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe. Right. I mean, literally, like every time there was in a pick-up thing that I had with my church. They were on there at least 6 times, I think it was, and all six times, I picked them to lose 4 times. They won. I picked them to win twice. They lost. So I don't know what to think of this team. I think Kansas State is definitely going to keep this one close, and it's going to be a barn burner. But I'm going to say Kansas State wins by 3.
I'm going to keep bringing up childhood memories, Tim. Do you remember a song that surfaced on YouTube for a very, very long time as we were growing up? It's called Crazy Frog, Tim. Do you remember this?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Here's the thing. I was scrolling across Twitter after TCU won a big game, and I think it was over Baylor, and they decided to use Crazy Frog in their hype video after winning. I don't know if you've seen – whoever runs social media for TCU Horned Frogs, kudos to you. Like, you do a phenomenal job celebrating wins. And let me tell you, they're going to go crazy on the Wildcats. So give me the Crazy Frogs of TCU to bear down and beat Kansas State. So give me TCU in that one as well. Before we get to the Georgia LSU game, let me show this lovely comment here. Because Alabama is not even in the SEC title game again. And Alabama fans are crying more than a girl watching Hallmark Christmas movies. That's
phenomenal. Where's your wife, Maddie?
We need
her input on this. That's an all-time comment right there.
Yeah, that's an all-time
It's
comment.
true. It's true. Hey, we need to save that and send it to Cody, man.
Exactly. If Cody was on here, that would be phenomenal if he got to see that one.
Oh, he would have already sent 5-6 messages in response to that guy.
Exactly. So thank you, that Southern guy. We appreciate it. We're going to use that one for sure. LSU not at Georgia, but LSU taking on Georgia. SEC title game. Who you got, Tim?
This is the first time in a while that it feels like the SEC championship game doesn't really matter because LSU wins, they're still not getting in. And if Georgia, in event of a Georgia loss, they're still getting in. I mean, unless they somehow lose 48-17, even then they still might get in as the 4 spot.
True.
I mean, this is the first time in a while that it just feels like the SEC championship game doesn't really matter. But so I guess I'll just say Georgia wins, and I think they'll win kind of a defensive struggle. I think LSU will get a touchdown late and make it look closer than it actually was. So I say Georgia wins 27-14.
I will say this: LSU comes out and takes an early lead, but Georgia's defense gets it done in the end, and Stetson Bennett scores late, and they are able to win that game comfortably, just like they did against Georgia Tech. I mean, I don't know what it is, but Georgia, like in the beginning of the game, I don't know what it is because we saw it last week, and as a Georgia Tech fan, I saw it. They struggled early, but then, like in the second half, they just pulled away, and that's what they're going to do against LSU. And I expect them to win at least by 14. Like, what's the spread here? 17.5. You know what? I'll go over 17.5. Georgia wins comfortably over LSU.
Honestly, though, like I look at Georgia, and they're a very confusing team to me.
Yeah, they are.
There's a team that will beat Kentucky by 10, a team that they should absolutely dominate. They'll beat Missouri by 4, like 26-22, and be trailing the entire game. But then they face a top 10 team in Tennessee and just take them out and just back and forth. It's like looking like the number 1 team in the country, and you're just like, what? Who is this team? This is the same team that scored 16 against Kentucky, only scored 1 touchdown on these guys. Like, which team are you? Like, it seems like a classic example of a team that just plays up to their competition. I guess. I haven't seen every single game. I've seen a few games, but overall, it's just this Georgia team's kind of confusing me overall. And but I think ultimately, when you get to the playoff, I think they'll show that they're one of the best teams, if not the best team in the country. And I think ultimately that they'll be fine. But ultimately, they're definitely going to be fine in this one. LSU can pull off the upset, I guess. But even if they do, it wouldn't really matter too much as well. And I think Georgia's just going to show their dominance, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Yeah. Those guys, I mean, even the guys on second and third string can probably compete with anybody out there. So give me the Dogs.
Give me a quick pick real quick. Toledo and Ohio in the MAC championship. Who you got in that one?
I'm going Ohio because I picked Toledo to win one week against Buffalo and one of my pick'em things, and Toledo blew a 17.
You always go with the Water Buffaloes, Tim. Always go with the Water
sorry.
Buffaloes.
I was not thinking of Veggie Tales, all right? I was not thinking of that. That did not come across my mind when I was making that pick. But I feel betrayed by Toledo as well, so I'm going to go with Ohio.
I'm going to go Ohio as well, 9-3. I mean, they've had a fantastic season, but Toledo is actually favored by 3 in this game. So, but give me Ohio. I'll get watch. We're going to both be wrong. Fun Belt, Sun Belt, in honor of Noah Ferry.
Oh boy,
let's go. Coastal Carolina and Troy. Tim. I'm going to go. This is interesting because Troy's been a really good team this year. 10-2 overall, and then you got Coastal Carolina 9-2. They would have potentially been 10-2 if they played Virginia, but after that cancellation, they didn't get to play. I don't know. Give me Troy in the upset. I like Troy. They're hosting it. I think it's going to be a really good, really fun atmosphere down there in Alabama. Give me Troy upsetting Coastal Carolina.
Give me Troy as well, actually. Coastal Carolina, for me, is a team that I don't know. I just don't like there are certain games in which they just don't show up. A game against Old Dominion where they got blown out. And then their last week against James Madison, who I'm going to get to in a second about this, because the reason why they're not in the Sun Belt title game is an absolute travesty, and it's a rule that just needs to be done away with. It's very outdated. But yeah. I just don't think Coastal Carolina will show up for big games as well. So give me Troy in this one. And I want to get to this, Ben. James Madison, had it not been for the fact this is the first year in the FBS, I believe. I believe it's their first
Yep,
year.
that's correct.
They transitioned from FCS where they were one of the best teams. Again, of course, North Dakota State's dominated that, but James Madison definitely got up there. And I believe they were the team that actually won the title the 1 year North Dakota State didn't win it.
That's right.
They're a very talented team. And they're very, very good also. And the fact of the matter is they were tied with Coastal Carolina in that division in the same exact record, and they just demolished Coastal Carolina as well. And so they would have had the tiebreaker, but due to a rule saying, first couple years that you from the last 2 years, I believe it is, FCS, you're not eligible for the playoffs. And then the first 2 years in FBS, you're not eligible for a bowl or your conference championship, which that's an absolutely outdated rule. I don't understand it. It's ridiculous. It's egregious. Justice for JMU, and man, those guys deserve to be in this game as well. But that's not why I'm picking Troy. I think Troy's ultimately going to outperform Coastal Carolina in this one. I haven't been too impressed with Coastal Carolina this year. They've done what they need to do it in 9 other ball games, but there's been a couple, especially in conference play. Just they haven't looked that impressive to me. So give me Troy, and it's a travesty that James Madison's not in this game.
This is going to be a fun one right here. American Athletic Conference.
Yes.
UCF and Tulane, Tim. UCF, I think Auburn has regretted firing Gus Malzahn because of the success he has had at Central Florida. But Tulane, Willie Fritz was all in the news this week about maybe taking the Georgia Tech job, and then you see them the next day hire Brent Keith. So a little bit of drama down there in the Tulane program. Can they get it done with all the drama that's been surrounding the program?
Yeah, I think that they're going to move past it. I think they'll be fine in this one. It's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be fun as well. It feels like UCF, anytime they play an AAC, excuse me, I went too fast there. They ultimately hosting it. So this is the first time it looks like they're going to be on the road. They got to go to New Orleans, to Tulane, who's hosting this one. It's going to be fun. I imagine watching Pratt for Tulane. I think he's going to be I think he's definitely someone that's going to be a big part of their offense or quarterback. As well, you got to keep an eye on their running back as well, Spears, who has 14 touchdowns, over 1,200 yards rushing. They're very balanced that they can beat you with the run. They can also beat you with the pass. Very talented Tulane team as well. They've had a really good season, 10-2. And then UCF, Javon Baker, their wide receiver, over 700 yards, man. I think he's definitely going to be someone to watch out for UCF as well. But I got to go with Tulane. I think they win in a close one. I think their home field advantage is going to be big for them. Give me Tulane in a close one, 35-31.
Well, I already had Tulane winning this game, but this just solidifies it right here. Tulane's logo is a wave holding a cheerleader megaphone. That alone makes them the automatic winner. For sure. That's all you need. That's it. That's the only reason you need Tulane to win. Tulane, obviously, I think they're just going to get a big win. I think they're the better team. They've been the better team in the American Athletic Conference all season long. You saw them handle Cincinnati very well on the road, by the way. So I don't think it's going to be much trouble for this Tulane team. Give me Tulane in that win. It's a 4.5 spread. I'd say they're going to definitely cover that. Mountain West Championship, Fresno State, Boise State. This is actually a very common rivalry between these two, but now they get to take it on again in the Mountain West Championship game. I'm going to go Boise State in a close one. I like the 3-point spread, and I think that's probably what it will come down to, is a late field goal to win it.
You know, Ben, what's the thing that's been said around the most in sports, is particularly the NFL, with a certain QB that was just traded, or that was traded away from his team to a new team this year. What you remember?
Broncos country. Let's ride.
Let's ride. So, with that basis alone.
Wait. Are they going to ride like Russell Wilson has with the Broncos, or are they going to, actually?
I think they actually do it right at this time.
Okay.
I think I'm picking the Broncos, but I got to point this out. I saw this on social media. Did you see the way CBS? I forget his name. NFL Sunday trolled Russell Wilson in the Broncos.
No,
he did this exquisite thing with Mike White, riding high and all this stuff. It was hilarious. Then he got into the Broncos, and he said, "Broncos country, let's ride." Straight to another L. I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Sorry, I had to throw that. That was absolutely hilarious troll job. But ultimately, I think the Broncos country will ride in this one. I think Boise takes it.
Okay. All right. Purdue at Michigan. I think this is probably one of the Big Ten games I don't really care about. I mean, it really is. Michigan has a
You're gonna love what
17-point
I say.
spread. You know what? I'm going to listen to what you say first because I already feel like I know my pick, but I'm very intrigued to know what you have to say about this game.
Good, because it'll be quick. Because I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bullet points breaking down the Kansas State TCU stuff to watch for, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I put for the Big Ten?
Go ahead, Tim.
And what they are is the first one and this one, Michigan by 1,000,000. And then the second one's my prediction. Michigan 42. It's in.
Oh man, look at that. Look, here's the thing. I'm just gonna follow that up, and mine's gonna be quick too. I mean, I honestly picked Michigan to beat Ohio State last weekend. Did I expect it to be closer? Absolutely. But when you manhandle Ohio State, who supposedly was the better team than you all year long, it goes to show me they're the better team. Like, let's just be realistic. Michigan by 1,000,000. I like your prediction there. I 42-10 sounds about right. And I know Purdue is going to be all ticked off and probably use this on social media at some point, somehow, some way. Somebody's going to send it to them, and it's like, oh, they picked Michigan by 1,000,000. No, but I mean, more than likely, it's not going to be used because Michigan's going to win big. So
we're boiling the Boilermakers.
Exactly. So now we get to take our talents to Charlotte and watch the Clemson Tigers and the Tar Heels of North Carolina take each other
Great
on.
Depression Bowl is what I'm calling it.
Clemson's a 7.5-point favorite, and it may. I just want to see your face when you hear this because you've probably already heard it. DJU is starting the game as the starting quarterback.
Oh, I know. Trust me.
Brandon Streeter is still the offensive coordinator, Tim. So, and they're probably not going to run the ball much. I want to.
They better. They better.
You know what? Here's my bold take. You ready? UNC wins this one, and it's going to be close. UNC's played like trash, but so is Clemson. I don't know who in the world's going to. If Will Shipley runs the ball all game long, Clemson's going to win this one by 1,000,000. But guess what? Because of poor strategy, poor playmaking from DJU, we're not going to see Will Shipley run the ball more than 9 times. Give me UNC. Because Drake May at least can pass the ball.
And
he has receivers to pass it to.
Well, the thing that I can come into this game with, man, will Clemson care enough? They lost.
That's a really good point.
Bowl. They lost the Palmetto Bowl, and it also took their chances of going to the college football playoffs away. Will they care? Well, they should, because you had a chance to watch Wake Forest and Pittsburgh represent our conference in a way in which, it was an interesting game, I guess. But then Pittsburgh went to the I think it was the Peach Bowl against Michigan State, and with our third string quarterback, which because the second string got hurt, which I'm not going to disrespect because that kid actually went to Greenville High School, which is not about 20 minutes from where I currently am, but. They put us with that. And so it's just like, hey, guys, this is our chance to say, hey, the ACC stands for another Clemson championship. Let's go for that.
Yeah.
Now, how you win this game? Because Drake May, his numbers speak for itself. He's probably going to go over 4,000 passing yards on the year during this game. He's not too far off. He's over 3,800 already. Where's his numbers? Yeah, 35 touchdowns.
Yeah, 38.
30. I think it was 38 total, right?
Yeah, he's had a couple rushing touchdowns.
35 passing touchdowns. Yeah, 35 passing touchdowns, 38 total. The dude's been just a touchdown machine as well. Again, struggled last 2 games against Georgia Tech and NC State. And what's crazy is both those games were at home. So that's a little surprising in itself. But the key for Clemson, Shipley, Maffa, and Pace are going to have to carry the ball over 40 times in this game. You're going to have to let Shipley be a workhorse. You lost that South Carolina game because you gave him the ball twice in the fourth quarter, okay? Twice. And you mean to tell me we're going to launch downfield passes with DJ and how atrocious he's been and how atrocious our receivers have been, especially when one of our better wide receivers, Bo Collins, was out of that game. We now know he's out for the year. He's not playing again. He's not going to come back. We'll see you next year.
Maybe.
What are we doing? Yeah, maybe unless he enters the transfer portal. I mean, which Clemson needs to do to find some receivers and maybe maybe a quarterback or something. But hopefully the kid Vizina, who comes in from Alabama next year, will be something of note for the Tigers. But man, for this one, you're going to have to get the ball Shipley, and then when he can't do it anymore, he needs a break, give it to Maffa, and then get Shipley back out there. And then, man, you need to give the ball to our running backs. The more TJ throws, the more a chance of victory for UNC goes up. So, oh my goodness! And I just for being reminded about it.
Yes,
I totally forgot about that.
Let's
you got to make sure it fits me because my size, I'm a little bit bigger in stature, so I need to make sure it fits me.
Let's go back. Before we,
I'm right here, Hunter. I'm not hiding.
Before we took our long break, Tim made a deal with a good friend of his named Hunter Miller, and they said if South Carolina beat Clemson this year, Tim would have to wear a South Carolina jersey and post a picture with it, by the way, saying I love South Carolina or I love Cox. So I think that's what it said. If I'm quoting it correctly. Yes.
Oh,
so if you want to, make sure to follow Tim's social media handle right here, THulk18 on Twitter. You will definitely see this post here within the next few days.
Is it just Twitter, or do I have to go Facebook? I don't know if I can go Facebook
Hunter,
and say
that's between you and Hunter. That's between you and Hunter. So y'all can battle that out. But Hunter, if Clemson won, Hunter had to wear the Clemson jersey. So Tim's got to painfully make it through some hard times here in the next few days.
I totally forgot about that.
All platforms. He's gonna be posting it on Snapchat. You're gonna see him on like Be Real. You're gonna see him on TikTok.
Oh boy, I don't even know if I can post a TikTok. Goodness gracious.
Man, this is gonna be phenomenal. All right, I'm excited to see this. We will share this as well on the Sideline Sports Show. That way, people can get to see the lovely post. Tim
Hunter,
is
you
going
can hit
to
me
share.
Up, man. I mean, if you want to get it to me as soon as possible, I'll. I mean, hey, if you want to get it to me tonight, I'll wear it tomorrow. So I'll do it tomorrow.
There you go. He'll post a picture tomorrow. He'll have to wear it all day to work tomorrow. Oh man, that'd be something.
Hey, I'm on vacation from one of my jobs, so
you picked the right day to do it.
Yeah. Now my second job in the afternoon, they asked me to come in. So
we'll see.
But hey, you know what? Some people are going to look at me funny because I usually wear some Clemson shirts around. So when they see that, they're going to be like,
"Excuse me."
Hey, man, it's just one game. You don't got to flip like that. You know, this ain't going to be like that. But
see, yeah. I'm not willing to bet on like Georgia Tech beating Georgia yet because of that fact. Because I already know, like in my heart, like who's actually going to win that game. As much as I want Tech to win, you know.
See, I
did reverse psychology.
I thought the same exact thing, especially when it made that bet. South Carolina was absolute trash.
Atrocious.
Their offense was doing nothing. Their offensive line. I mean, they couldn't prevent a cold from getting to their quarterback. I mean, seriously, there was nothing that was like, oh, this is the easiest bet of my life. Course, right before the game against Clemson, again, something about the color orange that, except for when it applies to Florida, that just absolutely brings out the best in Spencer Rattler, who threw for 8 billion yards in 2 games. And then a bunch of touchdowns as well. And then Clemson's coordinator just forgot. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that 5'10" white guy that could hurdle a dude. We forgot about him in the fourth quarter. But, of course, hey, bet's a bet. I will definitely pay it off, even though I completely forgot about it.
Yeah.
It's been so long ago. But
yeah.
Oh, my gosh. You distracted me. I didn't even make a prediction for the ACC title game.
Go ahead, Tim. Go ahead.
That was good, though. But, yeah, ultimately, I think this is going to come down to how much will Clemson say, hey, DJ, we got to keep the ball out of your hands, man, unless you're running the football. We're going to have to give it to Shipley. We're going to have to give it to Maffa. We're going to have to give it to Company and all those guys. And the guys in the secondary, again, Clemson's going to be without one of their starting secondary guys as well. I forget his name, but he got ejected for targeting against South Carolina. He's going to be out the first half of that game. So it's going to be interesting to see what Clemson's game plan going into that, which should be do not let DJ take shots down the field because it'll either be picked off or it'll be 20 yards overthrown or 10 yards underthrown. There's no in between. So with that said, I think Clemson does do that. I think they will run the football. I think they'll have a ton of success running the football. and I got them winning a shootout, 42-36.
There you go, man. Oh wow, okay. I did not expect that. I had to take a minute for it to set in my mind what you said. All right, well,
I mean, even with the offense playing as bad as they did, they still scored 30 points. So anything's possible.
this is literally like the two worst teams walking into this game. Honestly, right now, I mean, there's no momentum for either team. I mean, there really isn't because UNC's lost the last two, Clemson's lost lost the heartbreakers to South Carolina. I don't know. I really don't know. So there's no momentum to write off for either team. So, but we do have one prediction: 35-21 UNC. I don't think UNC wins by that much. I think if UNC wins, it's going to be close, just because these two teams play close ball games against anybody that they play. All right. That's going to do it for today's episode of the Sideline Sports Show. Make sure to go check out our friends section103.com at section103.com using your 10% off code sideline on your very first order. Make sure to go check them out. And then make sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms. You'll know when all of the episodes come out and everything else and more. You'll get to see our picks. You can share them, tell us how we're right, how we're wrong, and also just share everything that we post as well. That way, everybody can come in and join the fun here on the Sideline Sports Show. So that's going to do it for episode number 50 of the Sideline Sports Show. Have a fantastic week, and we will see you right back here next week on the Sideline Sports Show.